I'm 29, male, and work as a mechanic. I've been at it since I was 23, and honestly, I love what I do. I get to fix things with my hands all day, work with a good group of guys, and my boss is more like a father figure than a boss. The pay is decent enough, not going to make me rich or anything, but I can cover my bills and even put some money aside most months. The best part of my job is this project I've been working on, my grandpa's 1967 Mustang. Man, that car is special. Before he passed from cancer, Gramps made me promise to finish restoring it. He's the one who taught me everything about cars, starting when I was just this little kid who could barely reach the hood without standing on a milk crate. He used to joke that motor oil ran in our veins instead of blood. So anyway, 4 years ago I met Sarah. Funny story, actually. Her dad's a mechanic too, owns his own shop across town. He brought this tricky transmission job to the garage for a second opinion, saw me working, and decided to play matchmaker. He asked me to look at his daughter's car, said the AC was acting up, classic dad move, right? When Sarah came to pick up her car, we just clicked. She was working as a regular office worker at this marketing firm downtown, nothing fancy. We went for coffee, talked for hours. She actually seemed interested in my work, asked questions about the cars I was fixing. Even better, she got along great with my family. My mom practically adopted her after the first Sunday dinner. We moved in together after 2 years, got this small but nice apartment downtown. Sarah would come to the garage on weekends, hang out while I worked on Gramps' Mustang. She got her own pair of overalls and everything. She'd help me sand parts, hand me tools, learn about what each piece did. We had this whole plan about using the Mustang as our wedding car, going to decorate it with flowers and stuff. Life was pretty great, you know? We had our routines. She'd cook dinner some nights, I'd cook others. Yeah, mechanics can cook too. We'd watch movies, hang out with friends, go to family dinners, regular stuff, but it felt perfect to us. My buddies from the garage loved her. Their wives would invite her for girls' nights. Everything just worked. Even our problems were normal couple stuff, like she'd get annoyed when I left my work boots in the living room, or I'd give her grief about leaving wet towels on the bed. But we always worked it out, never went to bed angry. That was our rule. I was planning to propose for a while, saved up for a ring that I knew wasn't the biggest but thought was pretty nice. Did it at my parents' place during Sunday dinner with both our families there. Sarah cried happy tears, my mom cried, her mom cried, even my dad got something in his eye, if you know what I mean. We started planning the wedding right away, nothing too fancy, ceremony at this nice local church, reception at the community center where Sarah used to volunteer. She was cool with keeping things simple, said she'd rather put money toward our future than spend it all on one day. Then, about 3 months ago, everything changed. Sarah got this big promotion at her firm, went from regular office worker to some kind of senior brand strategist position. She was really excited about it, telling me about all these projects she'd get to work on. I was proud of her, you know? She worked hard for it. But man, if I'd known then what was coming. After Sarah got this big promotion, suddenly everything about her changed and she was so obvious about the whole thing. Like seriously, did she think I was stupid just because I work with cars instead of computers? Every morning she'd spend like an hour getting ready for work, new makeup, new hairstyle, these expensive clothes she kept ordering online. We're talking $300 blouses and stuff. I saw the credit card bill one time when I was paying our rent online. That's almost what I make in 2 days of work, just for one shirt. Her supervisor, Mark, started scheduling all these emergency late-night meetings. Like, how many emergencies can a marketing company really have? They're not saving lives or fixing broken-down cars on the highway at 2 a.m., like my buddy Tony has to do. But Sarah would come home at 9, sometimes 10 p.m., talking about how they lost track of time working on projects. I started noticing other stuff too, like how she'd always put her phone face down when she was around me, or how she'd step out onto our apartment balcony to take calls, even when it was freezing outside. One time I got up to use the bathroom at night and saw her texting someone at 1 a.m. But when she noticed me, she quickly turned off her phone and pretended to be asleep. The worst part was how she started acting around my friends and family. These are good people, you know, salt-of-the-earth type folks who'd give you their last dollar if you needed it. My best friend Ray's wife had a baby, and they invited us over for dinner. Sarah spent the whole time checking her phone under the table, then made us leave early because she had a headache. Saw her posting on Instagram an hour later from some wine bar with her work friends. Then there was this one time my sister Amy needed help moving. Sarah used to love Amy, they were like best friends. Amy even asked her to be her maid of honor last year, but suddenly, Sarah's too busy to help her move, said she had this big presentation to prepare for. So I went alone to help Amy, and guess what? One of Amy's new neighbors works at Sarah's company, said there weren't any big presentations that week. The changes at home were just as bad. We used to cook dinner together almost every night, nothing fancy, just regular food, but it was our thing. She chopped vegetables while I handled the meat and stuff, and we'd talk about our day. Now she was always grabbing dinner with the team or networking over apps, whatever that means. When she was home, she'd just order expensive takeout and eat while staring at her phone. Remember that Mustang I mentioned? Sarah stopped coming to the garage completely. Used to be our Saturday thing. We'd work on the car together, grab lunch from this little Mexican place around the corner, make a whole day of it. The owner, Maria, still asks about her sometimes. Now Sarah says the garage is too dirty, and she can't risk ruining her work clothes, like she can't change clothes or something. One Saturday, I was at work. Yeah, I pick up extra shifts sometimes, sue me for wanting to save more money, and Sarah said she was going shopping with her work friends. Then my cousin Tim texted me a picture. He'd seen Sarah and Mark at this fancy restaurant across town, definitely not shopping. They were sitting real close, laughing about something. Tim asked if I knew she was there. I played it cool, said yeah, must be a work lunch. Tim's not stupid though. He just sent back bro. And I knew what he was thinking. I started watching more closely after that. Noticed how her work events were always on days when I had late shifts at the garage, or how she'd get all nervous if I said I might stop by her office to bring her lunch. One time, I actually tried to surprise her with lunch, this nice sandwich from the deli she used to love. The secretary said she was in a meeting, but I saw her car wasn't even in the parking lot. The final straw, before everything went down, we were supposed to go look at wedding flowers one weekend. Sarah canceled last minute, said she had to go to some emergency strategy meeting. Again with the emergencies in marketing, I was pretty upset. Called her work to leave a message about dinner plans. Guess what? Mark's secretary said they were both out of office that day, no meeting. Looking back, the signs were all there. The password on her phone, the weird work hours, the new clothes, the constant texting, the way she'd jump every time her phone buzzed, how she stopped wanting to hang out with my family, started making comments about my job, my clothes, my friends, acting like the life we built together suddenly wasn't good enough for her. I knew there was something going on with her, but I gave it time. But you know what's funny? Through all this, I kept working on that Mustang. Every free moment I had, I was at the garage, fixing it up. My grandpa used to say, son, when life gets messy, focus on what you can fix with your hands. So that's what I did. Kept my head down, worked on the car, and waited for Sarah to show her true colors. And boy, did she ever. Everything went down one night. It was a Tuesday night, nothing special. I just finished a 10-hour shift at the garage. All I wanted was to shower, eat some food, and maybe watch some YouTube videos about classic car restoration. Sarah was already home when I got there, which was weird because lately she'd been working late most nights. She ordered some fancy sushi from that expensive place downtown, another red flag because she only gets that stuff when she's trying to soften me up for something. The last time she ordered from there, it was when she accidentally scratched my truck backing out of the driveway. We're sitting on the couch and she's barely touching her food, just pushing it around with her chopsticks. She's wearing one of those new expensive outfits, full makeup and everything, even though she's supposedly been home for hours. I knew what was coming. Been waiting for it, actually. Had a whole plan worked out in my head for when she finally got the nerve to say it. So I just sat there, eating and waiting for her to work up the courage. Finally, she puts down her phone, first time I've seen her do that voluntarily in months, and turns to face me, gets this super serious look on her face. There's something I need to tell you, she says, all quiet and dramatic. Now, normally this would be where a guy starts freaking out, right? But like I said, I've been expecting this. So I just look at her and go, what's up? Real casual, like I'm totally clueless about what's coming. She starts this whole speech she's obviously been practicing. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately. Yeah, bet you have. And I feel like maybe we should explore other options before the wedding. She's talking all careful, like she's explaining something to a kid. I take another bite of my sushi, acting like I'm thinking real hard about what she's saying. Then she drops it. I think we should try an open relationship. My stomach sank. Sarah had always watched her friends get into open relationships and called it the dumbest thing ever, never even considered it for us. But now, with our wedding coming up soon, there was no way this was coming out of nowhere. Something was off, and I knew it. I wanted to start screaming, but looking at her face, how desperate and eager she was for my response, I played along. This is where my plan came in. Instead of getting mad or upset like she probably expected, I set my chopsticks down, took a breath, and said, you know what? I've actually been thinking the same thing. Y'all should have seen her face, like someone just told her they were canceling her favorite reality TV show. Her mouth literally dropped open. I kept going, really getting into it now. Man, I'm so glad you brought this up. I've been wondering how to talk to you about it. This is perfect timing. I'm grinning like I just won the lottery or something. She starts stuttering, clearly not expecting this reaction. You have? Totally, I say, pulling out my phone. Actually, you know that new receptionist at your office, Jessica, the one with the red hair? Think you could get her number for me? She seems super cool, and she's always so nice when I come by. That's when Sarah's whole face changed, like you could literally see the moment her plan backfired. She goes from shock to angry in about half a second.
Jessica? Why would you want Jessica's number? I played dumb.
Well, if we're doing an open relationship, I figured I'd start there. She mentioned she's into classic cars last time I was at your office. Maybe I could show her the Mustang. Sarah jumped up from the couch like it was on fire. That's not what I meant, she practically yells. You can't date Jessica. Why not? I ask, still keeping my voice super casual. Isn't that what an open relationship means? We both get to see other people? That's when it all came pouring out. It was the moment I knew exactly how she felt about me. According to Sarah, I'm not in the right place career-wise to date someone like Jessica. Apparently, I need to work on myself first. Oh, and the best part? She thinks it should be a one-sided open relationship, just for her, because she's the one experiencing all this growth at her new position. I couldn't help it, I started laughing, like full-on belly laughing. So let me get this straight, I said, wiping my eyes. You want permission to cheat on me while I sit at home working on my career? That's what you're saying? She got all flustered, started crying about how I didn't understand and was twisting her words, said someone in my position should be more understanding of her needs, that with her new job title, she needs to be able to network. Network? I said. Is that what they're calling it these days? That's what you've been doing with Mark during all those late-night emergency meetings? The look on her face when I said Mark's name? Priceless. Like she'd seen a ghost or something. She started rambling about how I was being paranoid, insecure, how my low self-esteem was showing. I just sat there, eating my sushi, watching her dig herself deeper and deeper. Every excuse she made just proved what I already knew. This wasn't about an open relationship. This wasn't about growth or networking or whatever other corporate buzzword she wanted to throw around. This was about her thinking she'd outgrown me, that somehow her fancy new title made her better than the guy who fixes cars for a living, that she deserved to upgrade while keeping me as a backup plan. Well, I had news for her. This mechanic might work with his hands, but he ain't stupid. And he definitely ain't nobody's backup plan. After that night, I crashed at Paul's place. His wife, Jenny, made up their spare room for me, wouldn't take no for an answer, even made me breakfast the next morning, pancakes and everything. Real friends, you know? I called my boss first thing in the morning, told him the whole situation. My boss has known me since I was a teenager, hanging around his garage after school, learning about cars from my grandpa. He's like a second father to me. Take the day, he said. Dave can handle your appointments. Then he added, you know what your grandpa would say right now? Trust your gut, kid. And my gut was screaming that there was more to this story, way more. So instead of going to work, I parked my truck, not the Mustang, too noticeable, across from our apartment building at 7 a.m. Sarah's car was still there. Usually she leaves for work by 7:30, so I waited. Sure enough, 7:25 on the dot, she comes out, looking all professional in one of her new outfits, designer handbag, the works. But instead of heading toward her office downtown, she drives in the completely opposite direction. I follow her, keeping a few cars between us. Not going to lie, felt pretty stupid doing this detective stuff. But I needed to know. After about 15 minutes, she pulls into this fancy apartment complex, Riverside Towers. You know, those overpriced luxury apartments where all the young executives live. And who walks out to meet her? Mark. Freaking Mark, Mr. Perfect supervisor himself, in his expensive suit. Perfect hair, shiny shoes. They didn't even try to hide it, just started making out right there in the parking lot, like they'd done this 100 times before. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped my phone, but I managed to record a video, got pictures too. Part of me wanted to jump out of my truck and confront them right there, but you know what? They weren't worth catching an assault charge over. Instead, I just sat there watching them walk to his car together, all lovey-dovey. They didn't go to the office, no. They drove to some fancy breakfast place downtown. Must be nice having time for fancy breakfast on a work day. Meanwhile, the guys at my simple garage job were already 2 hours into their shifts. I went back to Paul's place after that. Jenny took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. I showed them the video. Paul started cursing up a storm, but Jenny, she got real quiet, then said something that hit hard. You know this isn't about you being a mechanic, right? This is about her being a cheater. She'd have done this no matter what job you had. She was right. This wasn't about social class or career paths or any of that stuff. This was about Sarah being selfish and thinking she could have it all, the faithful fiancé at home and the affair with her boss. She knew what she was doing. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't some fleeting curiosity. She had already made up her mind, probably long before she even brought it up to me. And that hurt more than anything. The woman I thought I was going to spend my life with wasn't just betraying me. She was willing to lie straight to my face and pretend it was some enlightened idea we should explore together. But what stung even more was the way she looked at me after she got that promotion, like I wasn't on her level anymore, like the guy she used to call a real man was suddenly less. I used to be her rock, the one she admired, the one she'd brag about. He can fix anything, she used to say. He's solid, dependable, a real man. But now? Now I was just the guy she came home to after spending her days in some shiny office with people she suddenly thought were better. She didn't respect me anymore, and honestly, that was worse than her cheating. So I spent the rest of the morning making calls. First to the venue. Lucky they had a cancellation policy, lost my deposit, but whatever. Then the caterers, the DJ, all those other wedding things you never think about until you have to cancel them. The woman at the flower shop actually cried when I told her what happened. Said her husband had done something similar years ago, gave me a full refund, and told me to use the money to buy myself something nice. People can be really kind sometimes, you know? Then I did something I probably should have done weeks ago. I drove to Sarah's parents' house. Her dad's a mechanic too, owns his own small shop across town. That's actually how Sarah and I met. He brought a car to the garage for a second opinion, saw me working, and thought I'd be good for his daughter. Her mom answered the door, looking surprised to see me. "Honey, shouldn't you be at work?" she asked. Then she saw my face. "What's wrong?" I took out my phone, showed them the video. Her dad came to see what was going on, and man, I've never seen someone's face turn that red that fast. He started pacing, running his hands through his hair just like Sarah used to do when she's upset. "How long?" her mom asked quietly. "Don't know for sure," I said, "but my guess, since the promotion." Her dad stopped pacing. "The promotion she got right after Mark became her supervisor?" I nodded. Everything was clicking into place now. Her mom started crying. "We raised her better than this," she kept saying. Her dad just looked disappointed, like he'd failed somehow. "Not your fault," I told them. "You did raise her better, she just chose differently." I showed them the credit card statements too, all the restaurant charges, the hotel charges. Showed them screenshots of her work event Instagram posts from nights I knew she was with Mark. "She asked for an open relationship last night," I said finally, "but only for her. Said I wasn't sophisticated enough to date other people." Her dad slammed his hand on the table. "Sophisticated? That's what they call cheating these days?" We talked for a while longer. They kept apologizing, but I told them they had nothing to be sorry for. They weren't the ones cheating on me. Before I left, her dad hugged me. "You're still welcome here any time," he said. "You're the son I never had." I drove back to Paul's place after that, feeling weirdly peaceful. Yeah, my wedding was canceled. Yeah, my fiancée was cheating on me with her boss. Yeah, I'd lost the deposit on pretty much everything. But you know what? For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I wasn't good enough. Didn't feel like I had to apologize for my job or my friends or who I was. I texted my boss, "Coming in tomorrow. Got a Mustang that needs finishing." His response, "That's my boy. Your grandpa would be proud." And you know what? I think he would be, not because I caught Sarah cheating, but because I refused to let anyone make me feel ashamed of who I am and what I do for a living. The next day, Sarah's mom called me around noon, said Sarah had been blowing up their phones all morning, crying about how I was being unreasonable and needed to think things through. Guess she didn't know I'd already shown them the evidence. Her mom asked if I'd come over again, said Sarah was coming for dinner, and it was time to end this mess. I didn't really want to, but her dad got on the phone. "Son, you deserve to say your piece, and she needs to face what she did." So there I was, sitting in their kitchen at 6 p.m., helping her mom make dinner like I'd done 100 times before. Almost felt normal, except for the tension in the air. Her dad was in his garage. Yeah, they got one too, probably trying to keep his cool. Then we heard Sarah's car pull up. Her mom squeezed my hand and whispered, "Stay strong." Sarah walked in like she owned the place, still in her fancy work clothes. Then she saw me at the kitchen counter, and her face went white, like ghost white. "What's he doing here?" she demanded, looking at her mom. Before anyone could answer, her dad came in from the garage, wiping his hands on a rag, just like I do at work. "Sit down," he said in that voice parents use when you're in serious trouble. Sarah sat. "Guess some habits don't change, even when you're a fancy marketing executive now." Her dad continued. "You've been calling us all day about how unreasonable your fiancé is being, so here he is. Talk." Sarah started her whole speech again, about growing apart, about needing space to explore, about how I was being controlling and unsupportive of her career growth. Her mom just kept cooking, but I saw her shaking her head. When Sarah finished, her dad looked at me. "Show her." I pulled out my phone, pulled up the video from that morning, placed it on the table, and hit play. Sarah's face went from confused to horrified as she watched herself kissing Mark in that parking lot. That's not, she stuttered. Not what? I asked. Not what it looks like? Because it looks like you're making out with your boss at 7:30 in the morning when you're supposed to be at work. It looks like you're leaving his fancy apartment building. It looks like you've been lying to everyone. Her mom finally turned around. How long, Sarah? How long has this been going on? Sarah started crying. It's not what you think, she tried again. I pulled out the credit card statements next. These charges from the Grand Hotel, that not what we think either, the dinners for two at places I've never been to, all those emergency meetings that somehow always happened when I was working late. Her dad hadn't moved from his spot by the garage door. We raised you better than this, he said quietly. That seemed to hit her harder than anything else. You don't understand, she said between sobs. Mark, he sees my potential. He knows what I can become. We're the same. We have the same goals. Goals? Her dad interrupted. Like cheating on your fiancé? Like lying to your family? Those the kind of goals you're talking about? I just sat there, watching her try to explain herself, watching her parents see who their daughter had really become. It was sad, honestly. You know what the worst part is? I finally said. You could have just told me if you didn't want to marry me anymore, if you'd fallen for someone else. You could have just said so. Instead, you made me feel like I wasn't good enough because I work with my hands, like I should be ashamed of being a mechanic. Her mom came and stood behind my chair, hands on my shoulders, like she was protecting me. Your father's a mechanic, she said. Was he not good enough either? That hit home. Sarah looked at her dad, still in his work clothes, still holding that shop rag. He'd put 2 kids through college with that not good enough job. Daddy, I didn't mean, save it, he cut her off. You want to throw away a good man who loves you, who works hard, who's honest, who's helping you plan a future together? Fine. But don't you dare sit in my house and act like working with your hands is something to be ashamed of. Sarah tried a different approach. I need more than, she gestured vaguely around the kitchen, at her mom's simple home cooking, at her dad's work clothes, at me. More than what? Her mom asked. More than love? More than respect? More than a family that would do anything for you? I stood up then, said what I came to say. I'm canceling the wedding. Already started the process. You can tell Mark he won't have to sneak around anymore. Mark's married, her dad said suddenly. We all turned to look at him. Yeah, looked him up after you showed me that video. Got a wife and 2 kids in the suburbs, but I'm sure he sees your potential real clear. Sarah's face, man. That was when it finally hit her. She wasn't special. She wasn't heading for some amazing future with Mark. She was just the latest office fling for a guy who probably did this all the time. She started, but I was done listening. Keep the ring, I said. Sell it, upgrade your designer wardrobe, whatever. I don't want anything from you anymore. I hugged her mom, shook her dad's hand. As I was leaving, I heard Sarah start really breaking down. Heard her mom say, actions have consequences, sweetie. Got in my truck, sat there for a minute, could still hear Sarah crying through the open kitchen window. I didn't feel anything. That woman is not mine to care about anymore. So I started my truck, headed to the garage, had a Mustang waiting for me, and for the first time since this whole mess started, I knew exactly where I was going. After everything went down with Sarah and her parents, I threw myself into work, like hardcore. My boss had to practically kick me out of the garage some nights. I'd work my regular shift, then spend hours on the Mustang. The guys started bringing me dinner, worried I wasn't eating right. There's this little coffee shop right across from the garage, nothing fancy, just good coffee and simple food. Started going there on my lunch breaks because I needed somewhere quiet to think that wasn't full of car parts and worried co-workers. First time I went in, I barely looked up from my phone. I was dealing with another text from Sarah, trying to explain herself. This waitress comes over, her name's Mia, big eyes, and just waits. Didn't try to rush me, didn't get annoyed. When I finally look up, she's got this patient smile, like she gets it. Rough day? She asks, holding up the coffee pot. I just nodded, and she filled my cup. Want some company with that coffee, or you need space? The question threw me off guard, those deep, warm, steady eyes, like they saw straight through the mess in my head. Most people just push themselves into your business, you know? But she was actually asking. Space, if that's okay, I said. Sure thing, wave if you need a refill. And she just left me alone. Didn't try to make small talk, didn't hover around, just let me sit there with my thoughts and my coffee. I started going there most days. Mia was usually working the lunch shift. Gradually started talking more. Found out she's working there while finishing nursing school. Said she likes the flexible hours, and the regulars are good for practicing patient care. One day, I was there during a slow period, and she sat down across from me with her own coffee. Hope you don't mind, she said. My feet are killing me. We got to talking. She noticed the grease under my nails. Yeah, that stuff never completely comes off. And instead of looking grossed out like Sarah used to, she gets all excited. Oh my God, you're a mechanic? That's amazing. Turns out she's been getting scammed by shops for years because she doesn't know anything about cars. I swear, they see a woman walk in and add an extra $100 to the bill, she said, rolling her eyes. Before I knew what I was saying, I offered to teach her some basic car stuff, just so she knows when they're trying to pull one over on her. She lit up like I'd offered her $1 million. Really? You'd do that? We set up a time for that weekend. I brought my tools to her apartment complex's parking lot, showed her how to check her oil, change a tire, what all the warning lights mean. She took notes in this little notebook, asked smart questions. What really got me was how she treated it like valuable knowledge, not some dirty job beneath her. She actually wanted to learn, even crawled under the car with me to see where the oil drain plug was. Didn't care about getting her clothes dirty. After that, she started coming by the garage sometimes, not in an annoying way, just dropping off coffee for everyone, saying hi. The guys loved her. Dave, who's like the grumpiest dude ever, actually smiles when she comes around. One day, she came in looking worried. Her car was making this weird noise. Without even thinking about it, I grabbed my tools and followed her out to take a look. Fixed it right there in the coffee shop parking lot, just a loose belt. She tried to pay me, but I waved it off. Next day, she brings me this lunch she made herself. Nothing fancy, just a sandwich and some chips. But it was nice, No complaints about grease stains or dirty hands or how I could do better than being a mechanic. We started hanging out more. She'd study at the garage while I worked on the Mustang, started telling me about her classes, her plans for after graduation. I'd tell her about the cars I was working on, my ideas for the garage's future. The weird thing was, she actually listened. Like really listened, asked follow-up questions, remembered details from previous conversations, and she never once made me feel like my job wasn't important or like I should be doing something else with my life. One Saturday, I was showing her more about the Mustang. She sat in the driver's seat, running her hands over the steering wheel my grandpa had gripped thousands of times. "Tell me about him," she said quietly. "Your grandpa." So I did. Then she looks at me and says, "He'd be really proud of how this is turning out." Just like that, simple and honest. Not trying to make some grand statement or push me to change careers or anything. Just seeing the value in what I was doing. That's when it hit me. Here was someone who saw me, really saw me, and liked what she saw. Didn't try to change me or improve me or push me to be something I'm not. The guys at work noticed the change in me. Paul pulled me aside one day, said, "You're smiling again, man, like really smiling." And I was. Not because Mia was some perfect dream girl, or because she was fixing me after Sarah, but because for the first time in a long time I felt like I could just be myself. Grease under my nails, simple lunch breaks, Mustang restoration and all. The best part? Mia was just as real as me. No fancy job titles, no designer clothes, no pretense. Just a hard-working student who brings coffee to mechanics and isn't afraid to get her hands dirty. After Sarah, I never thought I'd trust someone like that again, but Mia, she made it easy. Not by making grand gestures or promises, but by just being genuinely interested in who I am, not who she thinks I should be. And yeah, it's been 2 months since everything went down with Sarah. The Mustang's finally finished, every bolt, every panel, every piece exactly how Grandpa would have wanted it. Mia was there when I started it up for the first time, sitting in the passenger seat with this huge smile on her face. The engine roared to life, like it was just waiting for the right moment to sing again. Later that night, Mia and I drove it to my parents' place for Sunday dinner. My mom took one look at us pulling up in Gramps' car and started crying happy tears. Dad just nodded, that quiet, proud nod that says everything without saying anything. Sarah's dad was there too. Yeah, we still keep in touch. He's more family now than Sarah ever was. Speaking of Sarah, man, karma hit her and Mark hard. Turns out, Mark wasn't just cheating with Sarah. He had this whole pattern of going after new employees. Sarah was just the latest in a long line his wife found out in the most public way possible. Caught him with some new junior exec at the company Christmas party, like in his office. The whole company saw the fallout. Mark's wife took him for everything in the divorce, house, cars, most of his money. Even better, she now owns half his company shares because he was dumb enough not to get a prenup. She's on the board of directors now, and the first thing she did was vote to fire him. Guy's working at some tiny consulting firm in another state now. Nobody in the industry will touch him. Sarah tried to play the victim when it all came out. He manipulated me. I didn't know he was like that. But then 3 other women came forward about Mark, and everyone found out Sarah knew about at least one of them. She lost all credibility at work, got demoted, then basically forced to resign. Last I heard from her mom, Sarah's working some entry-level job at a way smaller firm, making less than she did before the promotion that started all this. She's living with her parents again because she can't afford her fancy apartment anymore. All those designer clothes she bought? Selling them on some online marketplace to make rent. Her mom says she's doing some soul searching. Sure, now that the fancy job and married boyfriend are gone, she's got plenty of time to search. Meanwhile, life's pretty sweet on my end. My boss is talking about making me a partner at the garage, says he's getting too old to handle everything himself, and I'm the only one he trusts to carry on his legacy. Business is booming. Turns out, lots of people prefer honest mechanics who don't try to scam them. So yeah, here's where I'm at right now. Sometimes the best karma isn't about bad things happening to people who hurt you. It's about good things happening to you because you stayed true to yourself.